Caroline Leavitt didn't hesitate when the reporters came for her. They tried to trap her with loaded questions, twisted numbers, and half-baked accusations, but she didn't flinch. In fact, she turned the tables with such clarity and confidence that the entire exchange became a live lesson in how to handle the press. Every attempt to corner her ended in complete humiliation, not for her, but for the ones asking the questions. It was sharp, calm, and completely unfiltered. She delivered facts with precision and called out the hypocrisy of the media without breaking a sweat. When asked about Trump's tariffs, Caroline responded with data so detailed and direct that it stunned the room. She didn't just defend the policy, she exposed the media's selective outrage. Countries like Japan, India, and Canada have slapped massive tariffs on American products for years, yet the media never blinked an eye. But the moment America fights back, suddenly it's a problem. Caroline explained that this wasn't about protectionism or isolation, it was about fairness, reciprocity. She laid out the trade facts one by one, making it impossible to deny. And still, the reporters tried to spin it. That's when she made it clear. The goal isn't to bow to other countries anymore, it's to stand up for Americans. Then came the dramatic moment with a reporter named Andrew Feinberg. He attempted to twist a question about deporting violent gang members into a moral debate. Caroline, unfazed, responded with facts and fire. She explained how vicious gangs like TDA have terrorized communities and taken lives, and how the administration is finally giving law enforcement the tools to act. When Andrew tried to accuse them of targeting people over tattoos or clothing, she shut him down instantly. The policy, she said, is not based on fashion, it's based on criminal history, known behavior, and real threats to safety. She asked him directly if he had spoken to agents on the front lines. Of course he hadn't. She reminded everyone that these agents risk their lives every day to protect Americans. And yet, here was a journalist questioning their credibility. Caroline didn't hold back. These agents finally have a president who trusts them to do their job. They aren't villains, they're heroes. And shame on the press for trying to paint them as anything less. But the press didn't stop, and neither did Caroline. They moved on to the issue of pardons, signed by AutoPen. A CNN reporter tried to corner her by implying something sinister about Trump questioning whether Biden had personally approved certain pardons. Caroline didn't dodge. She leaned into the question and made a bigger point. The fact that Biden may not have even known he signed an executive order shows just how broken things are. She questioned whether the president is truly in charge. She wasn't the only one. Reports from inside the administration raised the same concerns. She turned the spotlight right back on the press. Where were they when these questions first came up? Why didn't they ask the same tough questions to Biden's team that they now throw at Trump's? Caroline didn't just defend her position, she exposed the double standard that's been obvious to the public for years. She called out Caitlin Collins by name and reminded her that the role of a journalist isn't to protect the powerful. It's to ask hard questions of all sides, not just the ones they disagree with. The next moment came when a reporter tried to downplay the fentanyl crisis by claiming only 43 pounds were seized at the Canadian border last year. Caroline, again, was ready. She didn't just give a number, she put it into context. So-called small amount represented a 2,000% increase. And to the families who have lost loved ones to this deadly poison, there's no such thing as a small amount. She accused the press of being out of touch, ignoring real pain, and suffering in favor of numbers that sound less scary on paper. The real threat wasn't just from Mexico, it was from every direction. And this administration, she said, is finally taking it seriously. Then a reporter tried to blame Trump for the economy. When does he take responsibility? They asked, as if the problems hadn't been building for years under the previous administration. Caroline answered without hesitation. It's been just over 50 days, she said. And already, inflation is slowing. Gas prices are dropping and the cost of eggs is going down. Why? Because deregulation works. Because opening energy production works. Because putting Americans first works. And already the numbers are reflecting it. She cited real savings, $180 billion slashed in regulations, which amounts to over $2,000 per household. She reminded everyone that when Biden was in office, he took credit for job growth that was just a rebound from pandemic shutdowns. That's not leadership, that's PR. And this press corps didn't seem to question that. But now, with real policies making a difference, they want to pretend nothing's changed. Caroline wasn't having it. Another reporter tried to trap her with a number $71 billion in government fraud reported from 2015 to 2022. Caroline clarified the timeline, the source, and the scope. Then she flipped the question. Are you defending $71 billion in fraud? She asked why the press was so against cutting waste and abuse. Why were they suddenly the ones defending bloated government spending? She made it clear that cutting that waste means saving money for real families. And if the press wants to pick a side, they should at least admit who they're siding with. Then she was asked about the press seating controversy. Reporters were furious that the administration might change how the press room is organized. Caroline responded with confidence and purpose. The press room, she said, belongs to the people, not to elite journalists in Washington. She explained how they reached out to the White House Correspondents Association to discuss it, only to receive a childish email in return. The problem wasn't transparency, she said. The problem was a media class that's used to getting special treatment. And now that they're being treated like everyone else, they're throwing a fit. She reminded everyone that this administration has been more transparent than the last one, that the president is taking questions regularly, that the press has access. The difference now is that no one gets to control the narrative from the front row. Everyone gets a turn. Not censorship's fairness. And Caroline made it clear. The only people scared of fairness are the ones who have something to lose. Toward the end, Caroline responded to a wild comparison made by a former press secretary who said the new system reminded her of North Korea. Caroline didn't even blink. She calmly called out the lie and reminded everyone in the room that this was the same person who had insisted again and again that Biden was sharp, capable, and in control, even when everyone could see he wasn't. Reporters were silenced for asking about it. Now those same people want to lecture others about transparency. She finished by pointing out that this administration hasn't stripped press passes like the last one did. It hasn't run from the cameras. It hasn't hidden behind staffers. It's been out front every day answering questions. And she asked why the press never held the last team to the same standard, why they protected them, why they played along. By the time she was done, there was no question who won. The reporters came with tricks and traps. Caroline came with facts and confidence. They left with quotes for their blogs. She left with the room. And the public. They saw it all. In real time, the so-called experts got exposed. And the woman they tried to rattle, she stood taller than ever. Caroline Leavitt didn't just survive the press onslaught, she owned it. The media's attempt to twist her words, bait her with dishonest questions, and catch her off guard backfired at every turn. She was sharp, collected, and relentless. Every time a reporter tried to interrupt her or misrepresent the facts, she brought it back to reality with ease. And that's what made her so effective. She didn't just defend policies. She exposed the games being played right in front of the public. When she responded to the reporter who tried brushing off the fentanyl issue at the Canadian border, Caroline didn't just talk about the numbers. She spoke about the victims. She asked if the media had talked to the parents who lost children to fentanyl overdoses. If they understood what just 43 pounds really meant when even the smallest dose could kill someone. Her words were direct, cutting, and deeply human. She wasn't giving a rehearsed answer. She was giving a voice to those who are usually ignored. And when another reporter insisted on dragging out an old question about pandemic-era fraud, Caroline handled it like a pro. The $71 billion they referenced wasn't from one year, it spanned 7 years and multiple administrations, she calmly explained the timeline, then posed the real question back to them. Are you really defending that kind of government waste? That stopped the back and forth. Because, once again, she forced the press to confront their own double standards. Why is it that questioning abuse is controversial when it comes from this administration? Why is cutting waste suddenly a bad thing? She never raised her voice. She didn't have to. She let the facts speak, and that silence from the room said everything. As the briefing went on, reporters kept trying different strategies.